Welcome, welcome, my friends, to the closeout of such an unforgettable month inside the Insight and Impact Focus Group. This is our November masterclass, Embracing Change and Building a Resilience. God, it's been a wonderful month. So before we step into December's reflection and renewal, I want you to hear, right? I want you to hear this message loud and clear and have the opportunity to really hone in the work. Okay. But the message is this: change doesn't ask or wait for us to give it permission, right? It asks for us to participate. And so, every day when you wake up, you're in a state of change or in a space of change. And so we just have to participate. Anyway, we've spent the past few weeks, pulling out truths, digging in and grabbing them out of the shadows, naming our resistance. We've been rewriting some of our stories. We've been rebuilding the trust that we have in ourselves. And finally, we've been designing the systems that will keep us steady going forward. So now, today, what I'd like to do is weave it all together so that you walk into what's next with intention, not exhaustion. Okay, so just take a minute, right? Let's get grounded. Take a few deep breaths in through your nose, real slow, real deliberately. Hold it, give it space, right? And exhale through your mouth, imagining that you're releasing every single should, every bit of tension, anything that's been sitting on your shoulders. Go ahead and do that a few times before we move on. And while you're doing that, remember to say things to yourself like, I'm safe to evolve. I'm strong enough to stay being me. That's the tone of this class. And what I want us to bring as we move forward, I want our intentions, our actions, right, to be seated in truth without tension, looking toward and moving into growth without any level of guilt. So as we get started here, right, we have to start seated in the reality. Okay, so the reality about change is this: it doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't wait for you to be comfortable, right? It's not necessarily something that we get to go, okay, right? Sitting here, I'm ready for it, bring it on, right? That happens, but not always. So change actually moves when you're ready and or when you're not. So we always just be ready to go with it, right? The emotional resilience that so many of you talk about and rely on, that's not what's going to help you dodge your storm, right? That big fat change storm that is really uncomfortable. The resilience is going to be what helps you dance in it, right? Like dancing in the rain without losing your rhythm. So right now, right here, we're not trying to force change to feel easier. We're here to help you be clearer in change, right? How to sit in and move through it. Because when that clarity grows, your chaos will lose its power. Now, so for the next, I don't know, 30 plus minutes, because I'm really not trying to put a time frame on this one. I want to make sure that, we bring up all the juiciness that we've been working on all month. We're just going to spend some time going through tightening the bolts on the emotional frameworks. Okay, we're going to review the space where resistance hides. We're going to look at how your emotional integrity speaks and how to build daily systems that will hold you steady through whatever comes next. right? Sit in and move through. So I'm going to walk you through 4 layers, right? Emotional change, emotional maturity, emotional identity, and a blueprint, each one building on the last. So you're going to hear some stories, I'm sure. You'll get some prompts, and hopefully, you'll find and take those spaces to push pause and reflect. So I suggest grabbing your journal and keeping it nearby. Let the questions roll around in your head. Get them down on a piece of paper. Again, utilize the pause button. Your answers are going to surface when they're ready. So let them flow. So I'm going to start out with some reflection questions. Great place to utilize the pause. Right? So let's lean into some of these reflection questions. The first one, right? It's always useful when we ask ourselves things like, where have I been resisting change? And perhaps, where have I been resisting change because I mistook control for safety? What part of me is already ready to move forward? So you want to pull out some categories, because if you're only resisting change in your professional life, look at what you're mistaking as safety or control when it feels safe, right? Look at that and say, gosh, wow, where am I already ready to move forward? And I just have this failure to launch happening. Now, pick in any category that you'd like, right? But let those 2 questions sit in the back of your mind as we dive into the truth about change. Now, there's a part of change that everybody claims to love until it, of course, shows up uninvited. We say things like, I'm manifesting a new chapter. But the minute that new chapter looks different than we pictured it, we start editing the script or editing the visual or editing whatever straight back to that safety space, right? Like that old conditioned way of being, thinking, feeling, seeing, and experiencing, right? Resistance, my friend, is never about strength. It's about safety. So if you're resisting, right, you're seeking safety. Doesn't mean you're weak for hesitating. It's just more evidence that you're wired for self-protection. Okay, but that protection can quietly be that prison that locks you in. So you've got to update the locks, right? Like you gotta update what protection means to you, what safety looks like. To give you an example of what I mean, right? Like there was a period where I tried to ease into change by keeping all my old routines while starting new ones. And right, so if you can picture this, right, like picture me journaling about balance and answering emails at 5 a.m., right? I'm gonna balance things out, but every morning still getting up and answering emails at 5 a.m. That for me wasn't growth. That was, a whole lot of scheduling conflict and misappropriation of time. Right now, of course, that's not where I landed. I stopped that. I've changed that. I definitely don't, answer emails at 5 a.m. So change doesn't want your calendar. Okay. And I want you to know that, right? What change wants is your participation. And so we have to look at what participation looks like for you, because you don't need to brace for impact. You need to breathe for it, right? Like sit in and move through. I can't give you that in any other way, because that's how it feels for me, right? Like, oh, here it comes, right? Or I might be inviting it in. I might be longing for it, but I have to allow myself to sit in and move through it. Otherwise, it's going to hit that brick wall. It's going to be resistance. It's me saying, I'm going to stay safe here. I'm going to keep you out here until I look at you long enough to know that I'm ready. Then we wonder why the things we're trying to manifest or to make happen or dream about or pray about aren't happening. We're keeping them at arm's distance, right? When you cling to what's outdated, you don't just slow the progress, you drain your peace. Right? Think about it. The longer you try to resuscitate something that has expired, right? Every time you return to something, I want to get back to. Oh, it's always going forward. Anyway, right? Every time you're trying to resuscitate something that has expired, the more it costs you to keep it breathing. Change isn't a punishment. It's a promotion, right? It's like, oh, it's life's way of saying, you've learned everything you can right here. It's time to test it out in the world, test it in the field, test it in your life. I had a client one time who kept, always saying things to me like, I just want to go back to normal. And so when, we unpacked that and realized that, or she realized that her version of normal was built on overgiving, under resting, right? Always performing, that people pleasing. So what she wasn't looking for was normal. She needed new, right? Like she needed a new way to still be a giver without putting herself 20th on the list. So once she stopped chasing all of that old piece, we really started finding real calm for her, which allowed her to map out and navigate her days in a fulfilling way. And I get it, right? Like we're all here. Well, maybe not all of us, but we all enjoy to do for others, whether it's our children, our spouses, our friends, our coworkers, our clients, right? But we still have to live for ourselves first. So think of that, right? Change isn't chaos. It's clarity breaking its way in. So when change hits, the first impulse, you have to admit to yourself, right? Your first impulse when change is hitting is reactivity, right? It's a reaction. It's a grip. It's a fix. Like I got to fix it. Or maybe you're defending, and when I say fix, what I mean by fix is I got to fix me because something's broken, and change doesn't mean that. Change just means it's time to evolve. So quit defending what's here, quit feeling bad or guilty, or quit holding on so tight to stay the same. Allow yourself to evolve. So that emotional resilience is going to start where your reactivity ends. It's sitting there asking you or waiting for you to allow it to ask you, like, how do I want to meet this moment? Right? Like, how do I want to experience this going forward? Lead into your core daily practices here, guys. You have the tools right there to even answer this question or to know how to get to that answer. Utilize the art of pause. Make sure you're breathing. Do your core daily practices, because that's what's going to help you name what's real. And honestly, if you try skipping it, right? If you try to skip these steps, which by the way, get easier and easier and more automatic over time. But when you try to skip it, skip it. You won't be able to redirect what you don't, what you don't want. You have to acknowledge things. So jot this down real quick. Number one, what's one area of life already changing, whether I like it or not, right? Like, what's one area of my life that's already changing, whether I like it or not? Now, the second one is, what part of me is still pretending it's not happening? Okay, so this is the beginning of an emotional resilience blueprint. Okay, what's one area of life already changing, whether I like it or not? And what part of me is still protecting or pretending, sorry, what part of me is still pretending it's not happening? Okay, like going into protection mode, self-protection mode. When you tell yourself the truth, right? Like, we have to be honest with ourselves. Open, honest, genuine, transparent, and authentic in all things that we do, say, think, feel, believe, dream of, act on, invite in. Right? So tell yourself the truth. When you do, right, you're going to stop managing illusions and start managing the impact that you have in your own life. Once you can name your truth, the next step for you is learning how to stay honest with yourself, even when it's inconvenient. Okay, because this is where that emotional maturity is going to come in. So right now, it's time for us to start digging in deep, getting really real with ourselves. But I want you to hear this, okay? Emotional maturity isn't about staying calm. It's about staying congruent, right? Personally congruent. When life feels hard, most people, myself included, right, back in the day, before I learned and before it was important to me, right, most people start managing their optics instead of their emotions. Let me say that again. When life feels hard, most people start managing the optics, what they see, what's out there, right, instead of the emotions. They smooth or gloss things over, downplay the chaos, post something motivational and call it self-regulation. But if we're being honest, integrity, right? Personal integrity is how you self-speak when no one's listening. So we have to step into our personal emotional integrity and speak to ourselves the way we want to, because your self-talk tells on your values, right? So if your inner voice is saying, keep it all together, what it might actually mean is, don't get honest with yourself. If in here the chatter sounds like you really should be further along, right? Like, that probably means something closer to, honestly, I'm just scared to admit that I'm tired and I don't want to do this anymore. That's emotional maturity. It's not a vibe. It's a vocabulary. It's being fluent in your own truth. Even when your ego wants translation, right? Like, your ego wants you to have something that might be more acceptable by those folks in my life. If I take this approach, right, stay safe, it'll be more acceptable by, the environments. It sounds more like what everybody else says. I, it's a hard thing, right? It's a real hard thing from an ego standpoint to step into that emotional maturity and not mask it with some fake vibe and say what you really mean. Whatever this is, it doesn't align with my values anymore. I have to live in my own personal integrity. I need to allow these shifts to happen. I want this change, even though it's scary. Anyway, getting fluid in your own truth takes time and it takes work, but it can happen. I mean, case in point, right? I gave myself a pep talk that sounded suspiciously like bullying one time. Okay. Or not even one time. I did it a lot. I'm going to be honest, right? Like my pep talks sounded really negative, right? I would tell myself, get it together, right? Get it together, Tricia. So I started catching that. So I started utilizing the art of pause, right? I paused, thought, waited. I said to myself, like, why am I yelling at the employee when I'm the CEO? That's the moment, my friend, right? Like I realized, like, why am I yelling? Why am I degrading? Why am I browbeating? Why am I, right? Demoralizing. I'm the CEO. This is how my life motto came to be, right? This is my life too. It gets to look, feel, be however I want it to. I get to choose. I'm the CEO. My days, my minutes, my weeks, my months, my years, my engagements, my interactions, they all get to look, feel, be however I want them to. I get to choose. Right? That emotional maturity is about managing your self-talk culture, right? Like you have a self-talk culture. Be honest with yourself and start taking a look at it, right? Ask yourself, what story have I been telling myself about what's hard? And what is it really trying to protect me from? Look, when things get loud, integrity isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. And I know I drill that in all the time. It's always right here, right now, in this moment. I think, I feel, I believe, I need, I want, I dream about. In this moment going forward, how do I want? How would I prefer? Right? It's that ability to stay aligned with your values when comfort isn't available. Life isn't meant to be comfortable, right? Life is meant to be experienced. And so that's why, you hear me say, we weren't put on this earth to cope. We were put on this earth to experience. That doesn't mean to say don't have coping skills, but have effective coping skills. So when your brain starts writing that fiction, I can't handle this. Maybe it says, oh, it's not that bad. They just need me to fix it, right? Whatever that is, right? Like that's your cue to dive into an audit. Like you got to audit that story because the emotional maturity, your maturity means catching the moment your protection mechanism starts pretending to be your actual truth. I remember this one client always used to say yes to like literally every single request. And it was literally like a deep-seated fear she had of disappointing anyone. I mean, it didn't even matter if it was like a total stranger, right? Yeah, sure. Here's my last $5. I'm serious. It was no joke. So we practiced this one small line, without getting into the weeks of how we did all of that. But um, we practiced this one small line over and over and over again. And it became the rule before you can open your mouth and say yes. The first thing that you need to say is, let me check my capacity first. Even if she said it to herself, although I prompted her to say it out loud frequently, so that she could hear it, right? Like, let me check my capacity first. And so the minute she started saying that out loud to herself first, right? Like she didn't implode. But when she started utilizing that with her kids, with her spouse, right? With her family, at work, with coworkers, right? Where appropriate and all of that, right? Like nobody exploded. Nobody, sent her off to Siberia and signed her out of their whole life, right? But what did happen? Oof, right? Like her whole body got light. And that filtrating boundary system we had created that was struggling to run right was able to flourish. So when you stop abandoning yourself, I guess what I'm highlighting for you here is, anchoring into that fact that when we stop abandoning ourselves, we actually get to start living in it. Quit using quote unquote peace as your excuse. Now, here's where I want us to step into something that generally hits home, right? Like this is where the rubber's gonna meet the road. So ask yourself, how do you stay you while everything around you is shifting? This is something to ponder, definitely something to reflect on, definitely something to give some attention, because identity friction is a real thing. It's that weird season between who you were or have been or what you've worked super hard to become up until now and who you're becoming, where your habits haven't caught up yet and your confidence hasn't fully landed yet. Most people mistake that discomfort for being lost, and you're not, right? Like you're not lost. We're updating, right? Like we're updating our emotional software, and it takes time, growth, self-actualization, change. It's okay to say like, I feel like I've hit a glass ceiling. So I want to, pick through. Like, I know there's more. Right? I know there's more. Or maybe it's, what? Shift into a new building. Right? Anytime you hit a plateau or any of those things, right? Like we're not lost, we're not stuck. It just feels that way. We're not a project that needs to be fixed. Right? We just need to update. There were a few different periods of my life where, I had outgrown, right? Like some old identity. And when I say there were many seasons of that, I mean, there were many seasons of that. And my old story used to just be like, I'm going to erase that, pretend like it didn't happen, right? Delete the photos, change my routines, let's start listening to different music, all the things, right? But guess what that made it? And I didn't know this until, of course, I don't know, 13 years ago when I started this work. But all of that, right? Deleting, erasing, pretending it didn't happen. Like, oh, no, oh yeah, that was an oops. Like, let me just move on, right? It made it harder, right? It made it harder to integrate in my right here, right now, in this moment going forward. So I want you to think about this. If you're going, oh, I got to throw that out. I got to get rid of this. I got to get rid of that, right? Like, you don't need to delete the old version of you. Guess what? She's data. Right? Like, that's data. We need it. It's not damage. It's data. We have to learn how to sift through it. And so the key here is going to be your self-trust. And that trust needs to tell you that I believe in you, right? Like, I believe that you can evolve without abandoning your roots, that you can learn new ways to live without apologizing for what got you here. I don't know if you haven't heard one of my many, one of my season stories, right? Like, I've lived a lot of life. And there's lots of different stories and journeys and things that came up that went, oh wow, right? But you can't apologize for what got you here. People ask me all the time, like, "Ooh, you had it to do over again. What would you do different?" Nothing, because then I wouldn't be right here. Anyway, so when you feel that tug of war happening, right, between your past and the next you, right, like that thing that holds you down, weighs you down, usually can bring in some depressive states and fear and anxiety, right? But then there's that anxiety, anxiety inducing uncertainty of what, the future holds, right? Just pause and ask yourself, what part of me still deserves gratitude, not rejection? That's how you're going to move through change without losing yourself in it. Okay. Key is that you're not losing yourself. You're meeting yourself without the mask, without the veil, without the wall, without the filter. Nothing fake. So now that we've taken a look at that and faced that resistance, we've explored how to rewrite the story and rebuild self-trust. We got to turn all of that into something repeatable, right? Like, I want you guys to be able to come back to this, listen again, right? We want to design that blueprint that's going to make this resilience your new normal. Okay? We're going to be bridging gaps because we still have more work to do. So this is your power zone. It's here, right? Here's where that insight becomes your infrastructure. Resilience, my friend, doesn't just show up when your life gets messy. It's what you design for the days you don't see coming. Think of that, right? Resilience doesn't just show up when life gets messy. I'm super resilient in a crisis situation. Great. A lot of people are, but do you know, but how do you design for the days that you don't see coming, for those things that pop up? What's the design so that the aftermath functions well, right? Like, you already have systems, right? I just said that, right? Like, oh, if you're really great in a crisis situation, boom, cool. Well, what does that really do, right? Do you get overwhelmed? Do you take on all of the emotions? Do you take on all of the fear? Do you take on all of the stress, all of other people's burdens? Whatever it is, you know what it looks like for you. If something, flops, right? Like, oh, just resilient. But what is parts of that? You know, there's reasons, right? That there's burnout. There's reasons that there's perfectionism. There's reasons that we have an internal pressure to perform, to live up to mask, to hide, to appear perfect, whatever it is, right? So you got to take a look at what you need to upgrade. Your morning ritual. What's your stress routine? What are your default reactions? Those are all emotional systems. And you may need to refine them. Maybe all of them, maybe some of them, maybe it's just one that's not operating right. But let's talk about let's talk about refining them. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Okay? We're going to grab your pen, you're going to grab a paper if you didn't have one already, because I'm going to ask you to visualize some things with me, so you're going to want to write them down so that you can practice them going forward. Okay, so we're going to start with, and thank you for tolerating all of the little pauses in the video. It's a rainy day, or it's been a rainy week, and my dogs are a little needy. Hopefully it won't be too distracting. Anyway, grab your pen. We're going to look at your daily stability system. Okay. So the first thing I want you to write down, and it could be writing down the whole question or just hitting pause until you've come up with your answer, whatever works best for you, because this is for you, not for me, right? So your daily stability system, number one, what one habit or I don't think anyway, we'll stick with that word, right? Like what's one habit that helps you start or end the day steady, not perfect, steady. One thing that is tried and true, always works, keeps me steady, right? We want that to become our anchor, and we want to protect it like the air we breathe. Okay. Now, number two is going to be your recovery system. Okay, so this is for when you've been knocked off your center, right? You need to know who or what brings you back into your personal integrity, your emotional integrity. Because that's going to be your emotional resting space. Now, number three, this is your emergency system, right? This is for when everything gets loud. You got to know what is your bare minimum blueprint. Now, this is going to look different for each and every one of you. And so don't just pick something fluffy. Make it meaningful, right? So when everything is loud, what's your bare minimum blueprint? Me, I do the core non-physical feeling check-in. And sometimes I add that night hygiene with it. Pull out my shelving system and the metaphoric trash can, right? Those core daily practices. For me, that's my emergency system. Even though I use it with regularity throughout the day, right? Like it is my emergency system also. But maybe you want to keep yours a little more simple, right? And for me, when I was first starting out, it was the art of pause. Okay. A breath. My pause sometimes was 24 to 48 hours, whatever it is, right? So maybe it's a breath, maybe it's a mantra, maybe it's taking a walk. Again, I like things that are that keep you a little bit more in a cognitive, emotional space, connecting with your body, not something outside of you to bring you peace, joy, comfort, relief. But simple for you will equal sustainable. Seriously. I can't, I just want to sit with that for a minute, right? Simple for you equals sustainable. So when you're putting together these three things, right? Like you want to keep that in mind. Simple for me, simple for you equals sustainable. Resilience doesn't need 12 steps. Resilience doesn't need, complex equations. It just needs consistency. So ask yourself, which of my current habits or ways of being bring me peace? I like ways of being, but anyway, which of my current ways of being bring me peace? And which of them just keep me busy? Just take this with you. It's super important. And that is that belief, that knowledge, that knowing that when your systems reflect your personal integrity, you will stay steady. No matter what life throws at you, right? Whatever that storm looks like. Oh, let's take a deep breath, right? Because all of that work, what we just took time to build right now, is your emotional resilience blueprint, right? It's not just a list of habits. It's not just calling you out for your different ways of being, right? It's your life support system for creating congruence. We're heading into December. So as we're doing so, I want you to remember something really important. We're not closing a year, okay? We're not closing a year. I don't believe in the whole, this year's over. Come January 1, some magic veil is going to lift and all clean slate. That's not right. So we're not closing a year. Right now, right here in this moment, we're closing a cycle. December's not a finish line. Believe me, there's so much to come, right? But so December's not your finish line. Use it as a mirror. Let it reflect what's still serving you. Let it reflect what is expired, and let it reflect what's ready to evolve. Next month, we're going to refine our blueprint, again, right? We're going to, and I know, right? Like we keep refining constantly, right? Always self-actualizing. We can continue to grow, change, shift, morph, right? So we're going to refine it again through a new lens. So we're going to look at it as we're going to spend some time reflecting. We're going to spend some time renewing, I guess, if you will, and moving into alignment for who I am today going forward and how I want to go forward, how I want to see myself experiencing living, how I want to experience my environments in this new way of being, and how I want to be received by the people, places, things, right? The environments in my life, right? So, we're going to audit the things that are outdated. We're going to release patterns that have been keeping you in emotional debt. And we're going to renew, refresh, recalculate, recalibrate, whatever you want to call it, right? The systems that actually sustain your energy and performance, emotional performance. because nothing magical is going to happen at 11:59 on December 31st. I'm just saying. That magic is going to happen when and only when you make the decision to carry your truth forward, open, honest, genuine, transparent, and authentic, right? So you've done the hard part so far. Every month you do, but anyway, so, right, like you face change, you're rebuilding that self-trust. You're dedicated to staying you. You've decided to design the framework to live congruent. And now it's just going to be time for fine-tuning. And then more expansive growth. So that, you know what, we can step into 2026 with purpose. We can leave all the pressure behind. So as we're wrapping up this masterclass, I'm going to leave you with this, right? We're not ending a year. We're ending a habit of being unprepared for our own evolution. You're ready, you're aligned, and your next chapter isn't waiting. It's already unfolding. So I'm going to see you in December for Reflect, Renew, and Realign. Happy Thanksgiving.